Ever since Nottingham Forest signed Callum Hudson Odoi, I've been asking myself one question. Is he a flop or is he not? Let's get into the scout report. Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are. Whatever time of day you're watching this, hope you're having a fantastic day. And welcome to your scout report on Callum Hudson Odoi. In today's video, as in previous videos, we'll be going over his pros, his cons. Will he work at Nottingham Forest? And we'll have a look at a bit of gameplay, as well as where he fits in to certain systems. If you're enjoying this different element to Forest Fan TV, this reporting side, please don't forget to give the video a quick like. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new, and make sure you subscribe to FFTV High Press and FFTV Premier League. Both those links are pinned in the comments down below. All right, let's jump into this and let's talk about Callum. Okay, so there's quite a bit to talk about with Callum Hudson Odoi. Look, let me just put out from the offset here. I ain't saying he's a flop or not at all. I'm just going to take you guys through the data, and then honestly, you guys can decide what you think of him. His current strengths are his ball control, his passing, and his playmaking. No real massive outstanding weaknesses in terms of his play. His biggest problem really is the ACL injury he had and his recovery off the back of it. But let's do what we've done before and get into some of the heat maps. Now, I'm going to take you back to 2021. He had a couple of games and a couple of seasons before that for Chelsea. But you can see this season, he predominantly played down the right-hand wing. Very similar to Jono, seems to really get wide on the pitch and produced some form. He played 23 matches that season, got 2 goals, was doing well for Chelsea and was starting to become the next big thing. But what's interesting about him is move him on a year and he completely switches to the left-hand side for Chelsea. Plays 15 games this time, gets 1 goal as well. So it's like he's versatile in terms of the way he can play, either on the left or the right. And then from there, he moves across to Leverkusen. If I bring you up the Leverkusen stats as well, you can see that, again, he didn't play too much. He played 14 times, no goals scored there. Majority of the time playing out as an LW or an LM for them. He's, look, how can I say this best? He still is one of those players that popped onto the scene a bit like I'm trying to think of an example, a Dele Alli. He came onto the scene, looked really hot, and then kind of faded away a little. Dele Alli may be a bad example because he's had off the pitch stuff going on, but I'm just talking in relation to the on the pitch stuff. And it's clear for me that Callum Hudson Odoi needed a switch and a fresh start because it wasn't going to materialize for him at Chelsea. And bear in mind, he's had that time with Cooper in the past, so in terms of management, he already knows him. I think a fresh change is something that might benefit him quite nicely. And what I want to do, though, I want to compare him to Jono, because a lot of people are saying that he is the replacement for Brennan Johnson. So if we have a look at the stats for him, you could actually argue that his stats, let's bring it up against his Premier League season so we get a better comparison here. Let's just bring that up quickly. And we'll go to his season on the right hand side, and you can see that overall, in general, his stats hold up better than Johnson's do. Attacking wise, they're dead level on 68 points. In terms of the technical side, he's better than Johnson by a long way. Creativity, he's got more creativity than Johnson. He's on 71, Johnson's on 55. Defensively, look, it's an attacking play. You don't expect too much, quite similar, 26 to 30, and tackling pretty much neck and neck, 41 and 40. So I think that's one thing to look at. But let's compare him as well to Elanga, and that could be quite interesting. So let's bring the Elanga stats up there, and you can see that he is technically a lot better than Elanga, creatively, attacking, and with his tackle as well. So there is a hidden gem, is what I'm trying to tell you, behind this player. But it just depends how he reacts to this move. Does he see this as a positive? Is he going to look to rekindle his career at Nottingham Forest? If he's willing to do all of that, I think we could have ourselves a decent player. But I definitely think there's an element of risk in it. What do you guys think looking at those stats? Okay, so let's just put those stats into numbers for you. And in particular, his time in the Premier League, he had 72 appearances with 4 goals and an okay-ish amount of assists, 11 assists. But you can see his goals per match are really low. So don't expect a goal-scoring midfielder or wide player from him too much. Passes per game, about 21, and big chances created across those 72 matches were 15 in total. What he does a lot of is crossing, and he likes to get to the byline and then cut a low ball back in. Very similar to the way Johnson likes to cross in, but with Callum Hudson Odoi, he can do it from both left and the right-hand side of the pitch. But you look at those stats, and on paper, doesn't look amazing. I'm not going to flower stuff up for you guys. Again, this doesn't necessitate that he's crap. I'm just saying these are his stats. So kind of temper your expectations from him is what I would say. Who knows? He may just pop off and hit the ground running. This isn't my opinion. I'm just going to reiterate it. I just want to show you the stats. So overall, if you looked at those stats just as a kind of layman passing by, you wouldn't really set the world on fire with them. But let's have a look at how he compares against players of similar position across the European leagues. So there is some good news and some really good stats when you compare him to the other players across the European leagues. And the one that stands out like a sore thumb is his pass completion rate at 82.5%. Puts him in the 93 percentile against all the other players. However, this is his last season stats, so remember he didn't play that many games in the Bundesliga. Now, in terms of progressive passes, they look good. He's in the 86 percentile with just over 5 per game. And then progressive carries, he likes to dribble. It's something he said in his interview. Well, that actually is backed up by the papers, as well as his progressive carries are 4.59, and again in the 85 percentile range. You can see where he really lacks is the goal scoring. Forget the tackling and things like that. We're not too fussed on an attacking player. But goal scoring, he really doesn't offer too much. And this is something he's going to need to build on and improve. And if he's going to go to that next level or rekindle that form he had before his injury, then he's going to have to find confidence in front of goals, because we can't just rely on Taiwo to score all our goals. And by the way, congratulations, Taiwo, on being nominated for Potten Player of the Month for the Premier League. There's a link in the community tab. Go support Taiwo by making sure you've voted. If you go to our YouTube homepage, youtube.com/@ForestFanTV, and go to the community tab, make sure you click on that link to vote for Taiwo for Player of the Month for the Premier League. So back to Callum Hudson Odoi. I can't flower it up. I'm being straight with you guys. Good passer, but good at progressing the ball. Those are his best stats. Let's go and have a look at some of the clips, and maybe that will help to lift the hopes on what to expect of them. All right, so let's have a look at some clips on Callum Hudson Odoi. And it's going to be very similar to what I just talked about. You'll see that he either looks to cross the ball high and he can cross it in early, or he will look to get to the byline and then play a low ball there. As you can see, he finds a nice ball into the 6-yard box and is able to create a goal scoring chance there. But his general crosses, I think, are really good. And playing with someone like Taiwo now, he's played with Lukaku before, as you can see in that clip, will actually benefit Taiwo. If Taiwo, who I think is a real good presence in the air and in the box, I think Callum Hudson Odoi will be able to find him quite well in most cases. But I think his strength is really trying to take on players. When he does it and then gets to the byline, as you'll see in this clip here, It's just his decision making that still needs a little tweaking there. Should have scored from that chance there. But if he can get to that byline, pull the ball back for an easy setup on a midfielder coming through, then we should have a good crosser on our hands. Now, let's have a look at his scoring. Now, he can take a penalty. He scores it here with the annoying pigeon steps, but it seems that every single footballer does that. And he can shoot from distance. He's not scared to try his luck. You will tend to see that most of his shots will come off on his right foot. He's very right-footed when it comes to shooting, but does have the ability, if closer on goal like here, to put the ball in the back of the net on his weaker foot. But in general, what he likes to do is open his body up, a bit like, look, no comparison at all, but the style in terms of what Henry does, like to open his body up onto his right foot and then put the ball away. But as you can see, penalty wise, he'll be very confident for Nottingham Forest, and he will chip in with a few goals in the season, hopefully. But for me, that's the area he really does need to push on and improve, so we get more goal scorers in that position. But that's his finishing, that's his crossing, that's his passing. Let's go and see how he fits in to Steve Cooper's formations. Okay, so I'm just going to leave Sangare and Dominguez on the pitch. I'm not saying that they're going to start. It's just we've worked through their profiles so far this series. Now, Callum Hudson Odoi, I've purposely started with the back 3/5 formation. This isn't one where he really fits in. The only time he could really play in this position is, believe it or not, if you play him as a right wing back. He has done that a little bit over his career, not too much, but that would be the only way you fit him in. So again, if Cooper's looking to go for this back 5 formation, I don't think Callum Hudson Odoi makes the team at all. I don't even think he can go into that false second 9 or 10 or whatever you want to call it up front. It's not for him. Elanga can kind of do it. MG Dub to a certain extent can kind of do it. Callum Hudson Odoi cannot do it. So in my opinion, there's not many setups we could have in the favored formation, as in this 5-2-1-2 that Cooper likes, if he was going to go for the back 3 or 5. If he wanted to do it, the only way this would work is if he makes it a 3-4-3. So what you would have is your 3 defenders, the 2 wing backs pushing up, the 2 in the middle, and then Callum Hudson Odoi deployed out here on the right or on the left, and you would need to have Elanga on the other side to balance it out potentially. Or maybe an MG Dub, whatever Cooper wants to do with it is his headache to figure out. But really, if we're going to see a back 3 or back 5, this is the only way I can see him fitting into the team. Now, obviously, the other option is that he is dropped and is not a starter. And I do expect to see these back 3 or 5 formations away from home. And I think he may be sacrificed in there. I don't think he's an automatic first starter at the moment, especially away from home. We may see different, though, in home matches. And that's what I want to go on to now. Okay, so if I set him up in the back 4 formation, it's going to have to be a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, which we'll show you guys in just a second. And again, remember, I've just got these names on the sheet. There's a reason they're blocked out, because I will reveal to you my final team towards the end of this series. Now, what I like about this is if we assume Elanga is the other winger here, so you've got Callum Hudson Odoi on the right, Elanga on the left, you got your 6 and your 8 in midfield. I would assume an MGW in the 10 and an Awoni up there up front. Callum Hudson Odoi, as I've shown you from the heat maps, can play either on the right hand side here and work the channel, or on the left hand side here and switch around with Elanga. And I like that idea because Elanga himself can play on both sides. And therefore, if you start to feel in a match, or should I say if Cooper starts to feel in a match that they're not really able to get the better of the fullback they're up against, he could literally just swap it over with no substitution costs or anything like that and see if they have more success inversing on the other sides. Now, personally, I think Callum Hudson Odoi prefers to play on the left-hand side because he can cut in and then create that Henry-style opened-up body shooting chance. And I think we would get more goals out of him if we played him on the left. However, if you play him on the right, then you do open the natural angle for him to get more crosses in. So it really depends what style of play we go for over the course of this season. Now, how else does this fit in? Well, I actually quite like these two, if Callum Hudson Odoi was to play in an old school 4-4-1-1. I think if you get two wingers there, you could have potentially Callum Hudson Odoi, Elanga on the wing, and then you're looking at MGW in the 10 and then Awoniyi up front. Again, you would need a couple of bricks in the middle just to make sure they can control a two-man midfield. However, this formation is risky. Even if you made it into a 4-4-2, Callum Hudson Odoi is not good at tracking back or tackling. Therefore, you could find that the opponents could double up down this flank, whatever flank he's on, and then get an overload. So I think that's actually quite risky. So I wouldn't ideally recommend bringing Hudson Odoi and Elanga. Elanga is okay at getting back and defending, but we would expose whatever flank Callum Hudson Odoi is in. For me, the safer bet would be to go with a 4-3-3 and then put Callum Hudson Odoi wide on the right, put the striker up front and another winger on the opposite side. I don't like the 4-3-1-2 with him in there. Again, I don't see where he quite fits in. He wouldn't be able to fit in the 10 for me. He wouldn't be able to go up front, so would probably be dropped. He may be able to deputise for Morgan Gibbs-White, but I still don't think he's an out-and-out 10 or anything like that. His strengths come from taking players on in a wider position and getting those crosses in. So personally for me, if Callum Hudson Odoi is on the pitch, it needs to be a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 flat out. I think that formation would suit him quite nicely, and it also has him covered across the midfield, so if he does get lazy defending, then it won't potentially cost us any chances on when the opposition's attack. What do you guys think he best fits into formation-wise? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so that's really what I want to share you with in terms of Callum Hudson Odoi. So let's get into the opinion side of this. And for me, look, Callum Hudson Odoi isn't going to be the finished article coming into Forest. He definitely will need to be worked on. And I think actually this is Cooper's forte. With this age bracket of player, he can do a really good job with him. Now, is he a flop or not? In my opinion, he's not a flop, but has been a flop since his injury. And I think that's quite fair to say about him. I don't think he's fully got back to his best after that injury. But I still think at only 22 or so years old, he has plenty of time to regain that talent that was unearthed. Remember, this is the player that Chelsea have said was the best player to ever come out of their academy. And when you look at the price we paid for him, 3 million plus 2 in add-ons, it's an absolute free swing. It really is. So if he does become a flop, it doesn't matter too much. But we are looking thin on wingers. So let's hope that he lives up to his full potential and will come through. I don't expect him to start every game. I think Elanga will be chosen ahead of him in those narrower formations that we might see away from home. But I expect as his confidence grows within him, as he gets more minutes and legs, as they say, under his belt, I can see him developing, and I expect him to probably get more goals than the likes of Elanga once he's fully up and running. So overall, I'm very happy with this, more so because of the deal than I actually think of the player. But I do expect him to find in his new home at Nottingham Forest a lot of love from the fans, and probably and hopefully find that original form before his major injury. Get your thoughts in down below. I'm only being straight with you guys from what I've seen from him over the years, what the stats are saying to us about him. But these stats and his past performance will not dictate how he ends up performing at Nottingham Forest, but they may be indicators we have to keep an eye on. If you've enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. Go and quickly subscribe to the High Press while you're here, and of course to FFTV Premier League. We'll see you on the next video, and come on, you Reds.